Hey everyone, this is Chad Carson from the Friends of the Green Crescent. Welcome to a video where I'm going to show you some maps. We're going to look at maps of what the potential Green Crescent Trails network here in the greater Clemson area, both Clemson Central and Pendleton and Clemson University, what it could look like, show you the big picture vision, and also as I'm doing that, show you how the map works so that if you want to access it, you can check it out as well, which I'll start with that actually. If you go to our website, greencrescenttrail.org/maps, you can find this Google map. You can also, even if you just landed on our homepage, click in the menu up there, there's maps, and you'll always be able to access it. And the disclaimer with this map, this is put together by volunteers, mainly me. It's been taking basically the feasibility studies that the town of Central and Clemson did, Clemson University has done, Pendleton has done, and trying to put that into an interactive map on Google. And I'll show you how that works in a second here, but the point is you can access it, check it out, give us feedback. We'd love to hear from you. I want to show you the big picture of and tell you what the Green Crescent Trails are. We get a lot of questions of like, what is this? Like, is this something I can go use? Is it the Swamp Rabbit Trail? Is it the Doodle Trail? Well, I think the first paradigm to understand about this is it's trying to do two things at once. One is we're trying to increase what's called connectivity. So making the places in our community better connected by walking and biking paths. Sometimes that's sidewalks, sometimes that's a bike lane, sometimes it's a combination of those two, like a side path or multi-use path where you can do both at once. And that connectivity piece is more about making smaller segments, connecting the downtown Clemson to the university, connecting some of the neighborhoods and parks to one another better, and just making it easier to get around. And typically those are like mile kind of walks when you're just leaving your house and walking your dog. It might be a commute to work if you're a student or a faculty member. So that's one aspect of what we're trying to do. The other aspect is actually building a Swamp Rabbit Trail or Doodle Trail like segment. And I want to start talking about that first. I'll get into some of the connectivity pieces, but it's been sort of a puzzle for us. This whole movement started in late 2014, early 2015 with this kind of specific plans. And there's the whole network when we did a feasibility study was over 39 miles, I think, of potential segments. So you see all these yellow lines here are what could be done. And then Clemson University has their own plans as well, which we hope to connect into. But the question is like, where do you start? What's the best segment? And so it's taken a little time to get community feedback and to get expert feedback from consultants to figure out. But probably the most immediate and best plan we think that can make the biggest difference for it from a kind of off-road multi-use path that you can use for recreation, you can go park and do that, is something called the 18-mile creek corridor. So I'm going to try to zoom in on this a little bit, but I want to give you the big picture perspective. The idea is that perhaps you could be, and this is where this little pointer is here, is Nettles Park, which is one of the big parks in Clemson, which is also next to Patrick Square, which is close to a lot of the residential subdivisions in Clemson, and also right next to Anderson County, is to be able to go from Nettles Park right here all the way down along the 18-mile creek, which I'll zoom in on in a second, go along that creek, cross over where Max Drive-In and the Sleepy Hollow bed and breakfasts are, where the bridge to Pendleton is right here, to continue going along 18-mile creek, where the Packlet Milliken property is, where there's going to be a new real estate master plan development there, and continue going along 18-mile creek into Anderson County, and continuing in right below Pendleton, and go somehow either under a bridge or maybe a road crossing across 76, get into Clemson University experimental forest land, and then continue all the way down here to where the T. Ed Garrison Arena, the Butch Kennedy Trailhead are, and connect into an 8-mile multi-use path that Clemson University is building and already has 2 miles funded as of right now in May of 2019. They've got a $2 million funding allocated between grants and Clemson University money to build a segment from campus all the way down here near the T. Ed Garrison Arena. So that's a really big deal. That's something the university has been working on for a while, and their plans are to continue going all the way down here to what's called the Technology Park. I'm not sure if I can get the name exactly right, but there are currently some businesses and technology businesses there, but the future plans could be to make that even more of a focus and draw even more companies in there. And so that's been a long-term plan for the university. But one we're really excited about is to be able, that Nettles Park to the experimental forest route could be about 5.5 miles from there to there, and a lot of places that you could jump on, trailheads. Pendleton could tap into that as well and connect to their village green in downtown. Maybe you have a little brewery where you're sitting on the village green, or one of the restaurants out there eating at the restaurant in the middle of the square. Hop on a bike, go down here to the forest, go on a bike ride, or the mountain bike ride. Maybe you go to horseback riding there. Go to any of the parks that are here, the public parks on Lake Hartwell. You can go to campus and do something, watch a baseball game, a football game, come back, and just have this recreational and commercial potential, and preserving the green spaces that are so amazing in and around Clemson. So that's the really cool idea of this big greenway. It could potentially be from the original one I just told you about, Nettles Park to the South Forest, about 5.5 miles. If you add in the 8 mile, the 2 mile immediate kind of plans for the Clemson University, then you'd have about 7.5 miles. So maybe that first big push have 7.5 miles in the next couple of years. And then eventually, though, if Clemson University gets their entire 8 mile segment, and if the city of Clemson and Pickens County and maybe Central involved as well could add another 2.5 miles, there are potential plans to go all the way to Road 18 and right near the Walmart, maybe connect into downtown Central that way. So this greenway, off-road, Swamp Rabbit-like trail could potentially be about 8 miles plus 8 miles, about 16-mile path, both all the way through here and on university's campus, and be something really unlike any other trails out there, because there's not a lot of road crossings when you're on this part. There would be a lot fewer road crossings here as well, with some really beautiful terrain and potential to also have some living arrangements where people could live in a community here and in Clemson and in Pendleton, and be able to access the trail from there, and have a lot of parks as trailheads as well. So that is sort of a big picture vision, what we're really excited about. The things that have to happen with that, there have to be city buy-in. So talk to your city council members and your board of trustees and your people at the university. There have to be a University, Anderson County, City of Clemson partnership to initially make that work, and there have to be funding for that, both from just the general funds and hospitality tax type funds, also applying for grants, and maybe getting some sponsorships from perhaps local corporations, hospitals, people who would see this as a good thing for the community. So that is an idea of part of what we're looking at here. The other idea that I mentioned was connectivity, and is really important as well. And so some of the kind of top priorities we think for connectivity is, one is the downtown College Avenue connection. There's been a downtown corridor study done that shows improvements to making it easier to walk around, to bike into campus from a lot of the apartments and different places north of 123 there, and just generally make it a better place to stroll, to walk, to go to restaurants. If you think about the west side of Greenville, where you can stroll down the West Main Street and go down to the Waterfall Park, could Larry Abernathy Waterfront Park be something like the Waterfall Park, Falls Park in Greenville, which has become kind of the centerpiece? A lot of people think that it could be that, and having public spaces, having walkable spaces all along here, and basically having like a fabric of pedestrian areas that then local small restaurants and shops and vibrant kind of street life could bloom and take place because of that public infrastructure. So that we think that half a mile stretch, basically, including Kiwi Lane and a lot of the little feeder stuff into that, could be really important and a good place that we think that the city should prioritize. There are also other areas that could use some safety improvements. So we have the Berkeley Drive corridor. It has a lot of subdivisions, a lot of people living there. It also has Clemson Elementary School, where there's been a really nice pedestrian bridge that was already built several years ago. And so not necessarily building the Swamp Rabbit Trail, like big side path yet, but doing some just simple connectivity improvements, having better signs, better crosswalks, where there already are bike lanes, trying to put some bollards, which are like protective, just a physical barrier to let cars know they're not supposed to drive in there, to make it feel safer and actually be safer. And so adding some of those, and then maybe adding some signs and connectivity through some of the just on-street pathways through some of the neighborhoods to connect back into Highway 93 along Frontage Road and along through the neighborhood there, along Rippleview Drive, and continuing on to Brook Street all the way back to Gateway Park. So those little neighborhood connections there, Berkeley Drive connection, connecting to Clemson Park, connecting to Ashley Deering Park. And then once you get to Ashley Deering, that you get back to the 18 Mile Creek pathway. So if you could have a connection into that 18 Mile Creek from Berkeley Drive, then you're getting a lot of the town, people who live in Clemson, to be able to connect back to that main greenway. So we've talked about downtown Clemson, we've talked about Berkeley Drive, and then Highway 93 is we're all in Clemson now. I'm going to go to Central in a moment, which is really important, and kind of one of the most forward-thinking parts of the whole system has been Central and what they're doing. So I want to talk about them in a second. But Highway 93 stretches all the way from Clemson University, which has actually taken over their stretch from the state. So Clemson University owns this stretch of Highway 93 and has changed the name to Walter T. Cox Boulevard, and they're doing some changes, as some of you might have seen, in that area. But you can also, the transition between Highway 93 and Walter T. Cox Boulevard, and making that easier for bikers and walkers to get to campus. It's a big commuting route for people who live off campus. And then this whole intersection of Pendleton Road and campus, so that the university's campus actually starts right here where the old armory is. And so you have the gates to the university, the water tower there. And if you could be going on a sidewalk here, which is not a great sidewalk, but there is one in the city, and then the gates are there and then it ends. There's no connectivity between those. So getting that kind of a more seamless connection to where people riding in from neighborhoods, walking in from neighborhoods, could come to campus, kind of have the gateway, and then if they wanted to commute to campus or go to a football game or anything like that, have some safe ways to get onto Perimeter Road, to get to the Botanical Gardens, which is just the gem of the area, just an amazing place that I love to go a lot. So making all of these connections to campus a lot more seamless for pedestrians and bikers. That's a big priority. But then eventually also all the way up and down Highway 93, not necessarily building that side path yet. So again, probably delaying that to a second priority until the greenway is done, until some of these other things are done. But restriping Highway 93, we've been in communication with the DOT, and the city planners have been in touch with them as well, that some of those lanes are bigger than required by law, by their standards. And so you could have a restriping where you take out the existing stripes, reduce some lane sizes, and by doing that, you can increase the amount of bike lane you can have on the side and add some protection. Currently, a lot of the bike lanes are 2 feet wide and then a gutter, so there's not really enough room to ride safely on there, and you're right next to people going really, really fast. And so by reducing lane size, increasing the size of the increasing the size of the bike lanes, you add some protection for the bikes, and you also, by having that protected bike lane, make it safer for pedestrians who don't feel like they're right on top of the cars that are speeding. And by reducing lanes, you also slow down traffic. And that's a tough thing to do, other than just giving lots of tickets. But if you make it more difficult by having it be smaller lanes, people will naturally go back down to the speed limit that they're supposed to be driving. So that's part of our request on Highway 93, all the way up and down until you get into Central. And so Central, if you keep on going up 93, there is the Rec Center, and which is right on the is in Central, but it's a joint effort between City of Clemson and Central. You have downtown Central, and you have Southern Wesleyan University. And Central is such an awesome story of what's going on. It's a smaller town than the city of Clemson, but they have kind of run with the concept of the Green Crescent Trail. And the first priority in town of Central has been to get a connection from downtown to Southern Wesleyan University along Highway 93. So this would be a 10 to 12 foot wide side path that would start in downtown and make a little bit of a detour here around one part of 93, come back to 93, and end right here at the beginning of Southern Wesleyan's athletic property. And then Southern Wesleyan would take up the path from there and connect to the interior of their campus. So this would be about I believe it's a 1.1 mile segment, maybe a little bit more than a mile. And it's as of right now, when I'm recording this video in early May of 2019, the town of Central has applied for a grant to fund part of that. So I think it's a $1.2 million project. They applied for a grant for $650,000 or so, and then the rest would have to be raised with other fund sources and the town of Central sources. But once that's built, you'd have a really nice connection between Southern Wesleyan University students, family, visitors, faculty, staff could go back and forth between the town and make exercise out of going to lunch, for example, and eating at restaurants in downtown, and vice versa. People want to go over and use the public facilities and the golf driving range and watch a track event or watch a sporting event. It just really connects the town and the university in a way that it hasn't been yet. So that's a really important project. But there's other ones as well. So other important places to connect. We looked at earlier at the rec center. There's a plan for having basically a loop path going on, some of it a little bit of on road, but then coming off road here where the sewer easement is for the city. And some of this is the town of Central land, and going along the sewer easement and connecting back to the road and Spring Forest subdivision, and coming back, have some road markings and signs to connect back up to Highway 93, and then come down back down 93 on the sidewalk and have a nice loop that you could do. So if you wanted to go to the rec center and just take a jog and get out and kind of have a nice pretty walk and go through the neighborhood there, you could do that. So that's kind of a cool project that could be done in the short run. And in 2019, the town of Central is working on that. Another one is potentially having some mountain biking paths in the forest land of Southern Wesleyan University. So that's it'd be another neat public town gown kind of partnership between Central and Southern Wesleyan. So stay tuned on that one. And then eventually a couple more connections that could be really neat are coming from downtown Central and getting a connection to the elementary school. So being able to go from the neighborhoods where a lot of people live here and their kids go to school here, either from this side of Central or right near downtown, and be able to walk or bike to school safely. And so there are a couple different potential routes going there, but that idea of connecting to Central Academy of the Arts, Central Elementary, and doing that through the neighborhoods, perhaps like on-street paths, road markings, signs, getting to Johnson Road, or going off of Johnson Road, maybe through the new development that's going on there, and having that connection to downtown. So talked about a few there in Central. One last thing, just big picture, this is not as much of an immediate project, but getting to the North Experimental Forest, we talked about the South Experimental Forest, is another long-term project of the Friends of the Green Crescent Trail. And what we hope will happen is that getting to the trailhead here, maybe with on-street kind of routes, at first, but eventually maybe a safe side path, like off the road kind of path, where you could be in downtown Clemson, you could be a student here, you could be a visitor, and you hop on a bike, have a fun day of going up and getting some exercise and going to the really beautiful forest land, coming back, maybe riding on the other trails, so many trails here in the North Forest, coming back, eat some food, stay at a hotel, and take in everything that you want to do in the downtown and the university area as well. So those are some big picture visions. There's probably other things I could talk about here on the map, but I hope you will use it. Go to our website, greencrescenttrail.org. Look at the maps, look at other updates we have, get on our mailing list. That's how you can stay in touch with us, or you can go to our Facebook page as well and stay in touch with us there. We do a lot of active posts and have events on there. We have a monthly Ales for Trails that you could attend that are a lot of fun. So I hope you'll participate in those, and let us know how we can help you or give you more information. This is a volunteer effort. We think it's important, and we appreciate your support for helping us move this forward. Have a great day.